listeners, Harika here, and I'm super excited to welcome you to UppTalk. If you're ready to learn and get your hands work wonders in the world of information technology, then you're in the right place. When I say UppTalk, we are not just another edtech company. Consider we are your learning partner committed to unlocking your full potential. Whether you're stepping into the world of technology for the first time or looking to advance your career, we provide top-tier, hands-on courses to build up your career. Let's take our first step towards learning here and explore it.
Let's get started. We are on the topic of security and will continue to understand more on it. The overall structure of security, which we have discussed far. The components that we have covered are the functional areas, which is all the way to the domains and subdomains, which has their own domain security policies. And likewise, on the business process side, we have business process security policies, which gives us the access to initiate, review, approve, rescind, and do other actions in the process, whether it's an action on the entire business process or action step within a business process. And now that we have already established that security groups is the only way you get the security. It's not your profile. It's where your user is part of a security group or is assigned as a security group. Today we're going to focus on security groups. Now within the security groups in the same visual we are looking at. If you look at this users and roles section, it says two types. One is users and the other one is roles. Now each of it defines two types of security group: a role-based security group or a user-based security group. These are the two primary types of security groups that work with the levels. There's a good list of security groups that work with the levels. But these are not the only two types. There are many other types which are custom in nature, which you can create, like job-based, location-based, organization-based, and many others. Aggregation groups, integration, intersection groups. There are multiple types of security groups, but those comes as part of advanced security, which are not in the school, excuse me. But if we have time, we'll definitely walk over to a few of those. Now let's understand the purpose and the difference between why Workday has these two types of security groups. For that, we'll jump into tenant. Oh, I see a lot of people has joined in now. For people who joined in late, I was just discussing with the team that we will be focusing on the security groups part today. And the two primary types which our Workday deliver is role-based security group types and the user-based types. Now we're going to go into the system and create some of them and work through those. But before we do that, we'll have to walk over a particular visual, which I think I already have. I don't want to design it again. Or we have this vision that I designed a while ago. You have this user-based security group on the left and role-based on the. Let's talk about the user-based first because that's easier. Not that this one is difficult, but just some additional understanding here. Over to the left on the user-based type, they are unconstrained access, which means tenant-wide. If anyone is assigned in the security group, if anyone is a member of a user-based type security group, that means they can access a worker profile at the lowest level and also at the CEO level. If they have the ability to change someone's contact information for the lowest level in the hierarchy, then they also have access to change it for the CEO. That is what unconstrained access means. It means tenant-wide, without any restrictions, irrespective of what location you're in, whoever you're reporting to. If you have that access, that means it's tenant-wide. Which is the next point. These are admin roles and responsibilities. User-based groups. To name a few are absence, administrator compensation, administrator benefits, admin recruiting admin. Most of these are administrators. And few of the security groups, which are not called as administrator, but are more than administrators, are like security configurator system, admin integrations process user. That's also a user-based group. There are a few groups which might not have the name admin to it, but are of type user-based, but are more powerful than any admin groups. If you are an admin and the roles and responsibilities of an administrator of a system is to manage the system, create configuration, maintain the configuration, troubleshoot any existing issues. That would be something that you will be doing on your day to day job, not life. I'm sorry, on your day to day job if you're in a very core like techno function or a technical role. The third point says tenant-wide, which I've already shared, that the access would be tenant-wide, and one important thing, the users are added in the group. In case of primary difference between user-based and role-based, our users are added in a group. In case of role-based, they are assigned a role. I'll come to the role-based later, but user-based are simple. You will get a lot of admin access to maintain the system. And it's not like you will be dealing with customers on a day-to-day basis. These roles are something that, like a compensation admin, would be setting up the eligibility logics, compensation packages, or maybe, when a need, troubleshoot them. On the other hand, a compensation partner would be someone who will be dealing with the users on a day-to-day basis and get to know what problems they are facing and then bring it to the compensation admin table that this is what the issues is and please help resolve them. Every admin role has a partner role within it, which is nothing but a user-based role. Sorry, a role-based role-based security type. Because every admin needs a support, and every support is a support for the users, which are the end users. If anyone is having problem in entering a leave for themselves, they'll reach out to their absence partner, not to their absence admin. And if absence partner is also not able to do it, then absence partner will reach out to the absence admin that this person should be eligible for this leave type, but they're not seeing it. You will go in and troubleshoot what the problem is. While we are talking about role-based, let's understand the creation of role-based as well. I'll just proxy in as Logan that we have all the access needed. Creation of security groups are easy. Just run the task, create security group. Excuse me. Just run the task, create security group. And then you select the type. In this, you see, these are many other types that exist, but we will focus on a role-based constraint and a user base. We'll start with user base. We'll give it a name, Lexcanar Administrator. You won't have this big of a name, but I'm doing it just that this group is understandable, that this is what I created. You use your own unique keyword to create that. I'll create this group and all it asks me is some comments, which is not important. You can also skip this, but as a good practice, we mostly add in the security administrator because if you don't add this, anyone with a security can change the configuration to this group. But if you do this, that means only a security admin can do this. Mira, you have a question. Yes, while we are naming, I just had a query that do we have anything constrained or any specific standards to put name or while writing any name for a security group or for any other, anything comes under security. Do we have any standards to follow? Yes and no. It depends on there's no Workday delivered standards, of course. But if your companies follow a particular pattern, if your businesses decide that yes, they would like to follow a particular naming convention, then definitely you should follow. Or thank you. I see another hand raised. Manisha, please go ahead. While you were giving name to the security group in the real scenario, as an HCM consultant, Workday consultant, do we need to do this? I like the edits with user-based security group means in real scenario, are we going to do this or is just it's if needed, it depends. Let's say you have a new hire in the team. We want to give and provision them some admin access. Percy, you won't edit the security group, you will just add them as a member. But if, let's say, in future you notice that for a particular set of users there is some access which is not needed anymore. In that case, you will edit the security group and remove the domains or business process access that they have. It depends on case to case, but in most cases, editing a security group might not be a very common scenario, but removing and adding users would be a very common one. Removing and adding users. Correct? Because now we just created the group. This is the group that we have. It has nothing. It has no members in the group yet. I'll keep it as is. I'll open up a new tab. Now what we're gonna do is assign some users. And then let's see if we have anyone hired. Flick's gonna live in 0 or 1 or anywhere. Do we have any members? Nothing here. 1 point nothing here. And take some hires. We have iPhone Tor as a finance ninja. Let's say this employee is an HR administrator. In real world, it would not be the case, but we are. Since we only have this one hired, we would want this to be our our admin. What I'll do is, once I've created the group, I'll go to the related actions. From the related actions, once it opens up, you'll go to the user-based security group, assign users, and you'll enter iPhone 12. Oh, iPhone project. Oh, because I don't think that there is an account created for this person. security profile. Oh, I think this is one of that cases. This employee does not have any roles, which is not good. Unless I'm not able to create the account, it will not work. I don't have the option to proxy in. Why is it doing like that? If I run this particular report, it does not allow me to do that. Oh, this is crazy. Why is it behaving this way? I'm sorry for the time on this, but it is not allowing us to create people. Last time also, you had the same problem creating account for someone that you hired. But I don't know why is it this case. Let's get to another hire then. We'll quickly do a new hire. Oh, few close parentheses detected at filter line 6. I think it's not in the tenant. This is not at all a hire error. We'll have to work on something else. Let's say if I pick up an existing employee, let's say James Creek. I just want to make sure that he has an account and excuse. This is the person. This person is an actual employee and we can proxy in. We have the proxy. We'll work with James Creek for now, just to complete the demo, and then I'll have to look into what is happening. I'm assigning James Creek as an HR admin for our FlexCon organizations. Now, if I navigate to the security group that I have, you can just run the report view security group. Type in the security group that you have created, which is now you have a member, which is James Creek. Now, even though we have created this, there is nothing that we can do here. Because if I go back to this version, do we have the groups? Did we assign the groups to any domain or security policies or business process security policy or domain security policies? Not yet. This is just a group doing nothing. This does not have any security access. Now, the very first thing we'll do is, since we were working with emergency contact, what we'll do is we will give James Creek the access of emergency contact. But let's see if James already has any access before that. He's part of all these security groups. I'm probably thinking he already has a lot of access. That's why I wanted a new hire. Does any one of you hired any person and can give me a name? You're on. You can search for Carolina Miller. This one. I think in this case also if I tried to create an account. It shows up and then it disappears. We cannot use this as well object because there's no account creation. Maybe it's just my security access. And now to check with the support team on this. Let's work with James Creek itself. If I proxy in as James now, James does not have any access that we have given. He has access to the already existing information on the existing previous set of that is in place. If I navigate to, let's say, Carolina Miller, just want to make sure that we remove, or he already has a lot of access. But he does not have access to emergency contact information. If I see here, or if I try to navigate to iPhone 12 and look at the contact information here, this user does not have access to the emergency contact information to other employees. You see this contact, but there's no emergency contact. But he should have that access for himself. We'll go to contact. You see, there's an emergency contact tab which he has access only for his own profile. And if I click an add button, it's not even allowing me to add that. Let's not worry about that. Now, James does not have access to the emergency contact domain or the business process. What we'll do is we first change the security and give them the domain access. I'm gonna proxy as Logan, not sure if the other one. Now we know that emergency contact is a domain. We have looked into it. We have spent some time understanding that domain and it has its domain security policies. But let's say you need to give them, let's say you don't know anything about emergency contact. How would you find the domain that you need to give them access to? For that, there is a report which is called as View Security for Securable Items. Please make a note of this report. View Security for Securable Items. Now this report, make it your best friend, your closest friend, because you're gonna use it a lot. To learn security, you wanna use it a lot. To search for anything in the system, what security that has, use this. And in this, put in any keyword that you know, put in a username, put in an account name, put in a domain name, putting a task name or report name, anything. It will give you all the relevant information that is there. Now, what I need is something related to emergency contact. I click and give me all list of all the task report fields which has emergency contact. It's loading. If you see, it has about 28 tasks which has emergency contact. Now you have to pick which task is the one that you need. Now I need access to the change emergency contact task. I don't even have the view access. You have something on this clear emergency or view emergency contact. Now, we don't want to give them change access. We just want to give them the view access, and it says it's of type espresso report, which means it's non-edited. And to look into the security, it says that this is in this functional area and this is the security that you need. After you click this and gives you this information that this is of type report espresso. Permission required to this domain policy is view, and this is the security policy that you need to give access to. Now one thing I know that this is a self-service emergency contact. By self-service, it means that by default, all the employees will already have it. But what we need is to give someone else the access to view emergency contact. This is not what we need. What we need is goes here the other day. I'm sorry, what we need is access to this change, emergency contact. Now it does say that this is a task. But if we look at the security for it, this is giving us the access to the business process. But we still haven't figured out what is the view, where is the view, access for it. We're gonna go back, we're gonna come to this later because this is giving us the initiate access for the business process change emergency contact. We're gonna still find in the domain which gives access to change emergency contact reports, Espresso just for hiring and onboarding. Again, these are business process non-domain. Rohan, can't we check in functional areas? I'm sorry, what's that? Can't we do this in functional areas? We can see if you know the name of the report or if you know the domain, like in our case. We know that the domain is. If you know that this is the domain, a person data emergency contact that we need to give the access for. But if you don't know that this is the domain that you need to give access for, why is it not opening up? If I know this, then I can very well navigate to the security policy, add in our security group, and our job is done. But what if you don't know which domain you're working with? You're not expected to remember the domains. In that case, you need to find the domain from here. And now the other date was here and I was practicing. Let's see. Is there a functionality here? We can use Control F and search for you that option. Workday that works. Rohan, sometimes we do it like when we have a lot of data available in one sheet. It's a combination of business processes. Let's say it depends on the type that we are looking at. You may see some are tasks. Most of these tasks would be coming from a business process. Like if I click on security, it is telling me the first thing we need to understand is how to read it. In this case, it says that this is a type task. You can navigate to this particular option. You need the modified permissions. That is for the domain, but you also need to give them the business process access. But on the other hand, if I look at just a particular report, espresso, or like view emergency contact, my security looks something like this. I don't have any business process, I only have a domain security. Even if I give access to, it's usually self-service. The security policy that we are looking for is this one. Force and data emergency contact. This is what we are looking for here. I'm gonna find it. Now, this was the securable item that we are looking at. This is of type report menu personal data. This menu options means either from your worklet or from application or from your related actions. You can go to personal data view contact, emergency contact, permission required view Y. Because it's an espresso report, you cannot edit. There's no need for modify. What we need to do is, now that we know that this is the security policy, and I will say domain security policy, which we need to give access to. You'll click on the related actions. You'll go in the edit mode, edit permissions, and add in the security here. Be careful, you don't need to give them modify access. You can add it in a column which only has view access, because even if you give them modified, it won't make a difference. But for the other groups that are already added, you will disrupt their security. This is the only change you have to do which has a big impact. Now, once you save it, remember you have to run an additional task because your changes are not saved yet. You run the task activate pending security policy changes. Be very descriptive in what you add in. I just use test in the demo to save the time. But you have to be careful in what you're adding because the next person who will be running this task will see what was the last action that was taken. Or if any time they have to go back and see what changes happen, it makes a difference. Rohan, one question, please. Do we have any kind of audit reports like, for example, like you have a permission, you have formatted or edited something, and I went inside into the system. I have also similar permission. I made the change. And tomorrow, when you're coming back, like you were experiencing that someone modified something and you were not getting the desired result. In that case, if we have to figure out who did that, is there any audit report we can pull from the system for domain or permissions? Yes, there are audit reports with everything that you do in the system. For example, Now we just added this domain policy to this group. I can go to the related actions. Excuse me. You see, there's an option. You will see this part adoption in mostly everywhere. Click on the view audit trail and given the dates. Let's say we made the change very recently. We don't have to go back a lot. If I click, it will give me the information that this is the date was created. This is what was added by which user. Now the user. It's since we have proxied in as though when it's giving like that, if you do it in real time, it will be your username. It shows what is added, what is removed. I'll still be honest. Audit trail is not a very user friendly reports, but we still use it as in when need. But these are very good in telling us what happened and when it happened. But sometimes it gets a lot confusing because if the report is really long, it sometimes takes a while to get an understanding how to read it. Whereas if you see like change relationship, it says tenanted security group members granted domain access by domain security. If you read it for the first time, like what? Something like you know this would happen. But once you get understanding, you use it on a day-to-day basis. Like if you see here, tenanted instance has base language of user language. Does it come again like what? You know this is what happens, but you get an understanding once you start working through it. Every change you do has audit trail with it. Now that we have added the domain, yes please. Yes please. This security policy, made changes and you run the audit trend. You were able to, track the activities. Say, for example, I have made some changes in a security policy. After a few hours of time, I'm trying to run it, but the errors are thrown. I like to find out, is there any other user or any other security group which has modified which what I have created? Then I should do the same what you did now. I need to go to the particular policy and run the audit trial and I have to find out. But in real life scenario, because this is testing environment, there are chances of others coming on, disturbing the ambience. But in the real life scenario, will this happen, Rohan? No, that would happen in a very rare scenarios. Like for example, if you're working on a particular project and someone else is also working on a particular project and by accident, like why would someone do this intentionally? It would always be an unintentional act, like not knowing that two people are working on different project but something is common. One might change something not knowing that others is also working on that. I won't say this is a common scenario. Usually, however big the Workday core team is, people are mostly aware of what each of the member is working on. And they prefer to be considerate that if they need something from someone else, or if they know that this might impact their project in any other way, you inform them that I'm working on this. Like communication is the key in these cases. But yes, very recently I had an issue, like not very recently, like yesterday morning itself, I had a deliverable and I have to kick off the user testing with an end user, with the business owner, and my configuration not working. It was like a panic situation, but I knew something changed. And fortunately, we found out that some third party employee, like we are working with some external vendors. We gave access to certain set of users who can access our Workday system, but very limited access and add in some configurations. One of them created a security group and added it into an existing security group which I was using. That caused the issue. It took me a good amount of time to find out where that is, and it usually takes a good amount of time to find out what happened. And then, once I removed that configuration, everything was working as expected. Things come your way, but it's not that Workday is misbehaving anything. No, something happened. That's why it is happening. You just might not be aware of the functionality of Workday. But Workday does not do anything on its own. It does what we ask it to do. There might be cases that we are not familiar. That why is it behaving that way? And not. Yesterday was very eventful for me, not just one. Even in the evening, around like 11 p.m. in the night, I was working on a project. And again, something happened related to security, and I was like, I have never ever faced an issue like this. It was like combination of corporate security groups. And I was like, I know everything in security, which I'm not to brag about. I do know touchwood, but it was something again that came up to me. I was like, this is also another thing in security, which I didn't know, but now I know. It will be hard to explain that scenario, but again, something good. You learn every day about this. But if you're working on a project, please be considered that if you are making changes to anyone else's configuration, be mindful to update them or communicate them on the same. Abhishek, go ahead. Rohan, like these kinds of situations, even we may face when we are working in any of the projects. Maybe, like it will not be like that complicated. But sometimes, if we are stuck, is there any support ticket or any Workday community we can access or we can raise an incident with Workday? I mean, is it something like client has to pay or it's free or how is it like? I don't know if it makes sense to open a support case with Workday because we mostly open a support case with Workday when something you need is not working and you have checked all the whistles and bells around it. Like you have left no stone unturned on this. Like you have checked everything thoroughly and then you came up to a conclusion that nobody's gonna help. Then only you open up a support case with Workday. That is it supposed to work like this or can you help us what is happening? And sometimes it's Workday acting weird. Then they'll come up and say that this is what was happening. We have fixed this, etc., etc. In most cases, the other option is you post your scenario on Workday, something called as Workday Community. You post your scenario on the community, but it is specific if it's the case where someone else in your team has changed the configuration and you both does not know that you are working on a project, other person is working on a project and that person somehow changed something unintentionally and it has still not been clear what changed and the impact of it on your project. You might go to the community and explain the scenario that you're working on this and this is not working. You might not find a good answer because you might get back questions on community that, can you please explain what you were doing and when it changed, and they might give you some checkpoints that, did you check this? Did you check that? If anyone, you'll be fortunate if anyone with a similar scenario because what you are explaining is a use of it's a scenario based, it's a behavior, not a behavior. It's a scenario based situation where something is not working on your project because of someone else changed it and you have not found out that yet. Anyone in the community would also be difficult to answer your question because it won't be a direct one. It will be specific to the project that you're working on. Until and unless you don't connect with that person and find out what changed, it might not be very like. It might not be worth spending time with Workday support or on the community. Because you might not get the answer that you're looking for. It is something that happened internally. Explaining that to the outside world might not help. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Kiss me? Now that we have given James Creek the access to this particular policy, now they should be able to view all the information that comes in this policy. If I open up this policy, they should be able to view all the secureable actions reporting items as well. Giving access to a domain means you're giving them access to everything that is listed here, which is the secureable actions and your secureable reporting items. Now let's do a test run and proxy in as Mr. James Creek. And security is a very, I'd say, very delicate topic. You know, you cannot just go in and change security if you know everything about it. You always have to think of the bigger impact or any relatable impact to it. If you're not thinking about that, like we get cases on a day to day basis that someone is hired in the HR group and give them this and this backseat or mirror the access that I have. Some director level person opens up a case that this is a new hire of hired in my team. Please give them the same access I have. We cannot do that. You are a manager. That person has just started. The manager technically have a higher access than an individual contributor or a regular employee. Plus you have been working in organization for a year. You will have more access. Definitely it makes sense that we give them the access which needed for them to perform their day-to-day duties. But we cannot start giving them administrator access. If you're in the core Workday team, core technical team, you are bound to do configurations and implementations. Yes, give them the admin access. But like I said in the previous session, it's not that you will get all the access the same day you join. It might take up some time as and when you join, like you grow through the organization. Let's look at other folks. Like if I go to iPhone now, the expectation is that at least we should have the emergency contact tab visible to James Green for any other employee in the system. Oh, there you have it. Even though we don't have any emergency contact here, that's absolutely. Any other worker that we can look into. Let's say Charles' internal audit. Look into the contact information. And you have the emergency contact tag here. And this person already has the edit access, which is the next part was to get this edit access, but we won't move to the business process yet. The first thing that you have to do is get a new hire into your organization. Give them this create a user based security group. Let me start first. The assignment that you have is create a user based security group. Prefix it or suffix it with your initials, your unique identity. Give it a name. Here are admin. Don't forget to add user based In real world, you won't add user based. It's understandable that if it's an admin, it will be user based. Else you can also see it from here that if it's a user based or not. But this is just for our own understanding that this is a user base that we can easily identify. I'll also request you guys to create a security group with something similar of a naming convention. Or once you do that, add a member into the security group, possibly a new hire. If not, we'll have to find a different worker for that. And once you do that, if you're able to create a Workday account, good else, pick any worker and add them into the group. Or even if you don't add them into the group yet. Just add in the domain policy for this. Either you navigate directly to this domain security policy or through your best friend of New Security for Securable Items report. Either way, you should know how to add in or make changes to the domain. Today's session was to understand how to update a domain or change the security permissions for a domain, and also how to create a user-based security group. That's all for today. I'll open up the board for any questions on any topics anyone has. Rohan Fa, we created one company and one cost center. I would like to add company hierarchies now. If I'm adding few more companies under the originally created one, is it gonna disturb my org which I have created? It. In my org I have 4 levels. If I hire a person in one level, that means he will be visible in all the companies under my node. See, the concept you have to focus on is the organization assignments, if you remember. One worker can only be part of one company. Let's say if I navigate to this particular employee and navigate to the overview tab. You see, they are part of the supervisory organization. If I open this supervisory organization has these organization assignments. And in this, they are part of this company. Likewise, let's say you create another company. Employee who will be hired in the organization specific to those company will be part of that company. Now this employee, whoever we were looking at, is part of Hitachi Sales GM, which has the organizations Hitachi Chennai, JM and others. They're inheriting this. Now, when you create another company, that company will become an organization assignment for another set of organizations. Because another company, sorry to interrupt Rohan. My point is, the other company will be a child company to the originally created one. I mean making sense, for example, what I have already created. Let us call it as a group of companies, the name with a group of companies. Now I'm creating one with India Private Limited, the other one for US Inc. and for Canada LLC. I'm trying to do this. Understood? In that case, inheritance will work, but not at a company level. Will the inheritance remain at the supervisory organization level? I'm going to draw a visual. Just let me know if this is what your use case is. I'm going to draw it on a quick timeline. My drawing would be a little bit in there. You're saying that you have a company which is, let's say, company XYZ. Company KZ. Now I'm saying that you have multiple companies here. This is company 1. This is company 2. and this is company 3. All these are part of a company hierarchy. But once you start hiring people, those organizations that you create under. Let's say, if I look into this, no, Rohan, let me put my point here. I have created org under a company X, Y, Z. That's what we initially started our assignments with. I have org under company X, Y, Z. Let's say these are the different. This is the setup that we have. The XYZ has these two organizations. I'm just representing two here. There might be more than that. Two different organizations that this company has. This particular supervisor organization has. Now both of these supervisor organization has some organization assignments, and those organization assignments has company XYZ in it. Other companies does not have their, or let me go into the tenant now. If I open up this organization, which is Chennai HCM, if you see here, company in itself does not have any organization assignments, but a supervisory organization. Where did that go? Let me open any supervisory organization, but a supervisory organization has organization assignments. Question of, I'm still proxed in that someone else. Second, if you see here that supervisory, the type supervisory, which are our supervisory organizations, the base of all day, they have organization assignments, which are company cost center region. But a company does not have an organization assignment. The link to this is not happening from company to a supervisory. It's happening from supervisory to company. Got it. If you look, this is a very something which can easily be confused. You don't have to think it in a way that even though you have multiple companies, there's anything coming from top company to the bottom ones. No, nothing is coming from company to company. The inheritance is from organizations, supervisory organizations to supervisory organizations. These supervisory organizations, these three, one will have the organization assignment. And within that, your company would be company 1. Likewise, for these, it will be company 2. For these ones, it will be company 3. For this one, it will be company XYZ. Any action that's done in those supervisory organization will not have any impact on company 1, 2, or 3, correct? There might be a possibility, even, let's say, you have to move this organization from here to company 2. You can still do it without having any impact on any of these companies. We need to add an organization assignment then, because it will have company XYZ in as the assigned doc. The change only will happen, like in this case. If you see here, now it's saying Siradi company. Let's say you have to move this to the other organization. In that case, the company chain will be changed to company 2. In this case, that can be the only change. When it comes to linking of these, yes, they do also become like a tree structure. If it's a company hierarchy at the top level, but most of it is driven by the supervisory organizations. Understood, Rohan? Thank you much. Absolutely. Any other questions anyone has? In this case, then what is the reason to make companies in a hierarchy level? I mean, in what purpose? Without companies, you cannot have like an organization. You need to have a top level. The top level supervise your organization. Obviously, a CEO is the manager, but there is always something that comes above the CEO, that is your company. A company hierarchy of the concept is here to demonstrate that, because if you have multiple companies, you can have multiple top level organizations. But how would you know that? Where are those organizations leading to? You get them at a company level. That's why you create a company hierarchy. At company level, your tasks with the supervisory organizations are related to that particular company, but where it comes to the company hierarchy, only the CEO level that can take care of this, other companies. That's what you're trying to, if they are in a hierarchy model. If you have company XYZ and another company A, B, C, both are independent, they are not linked together, but they're part of the same organization, you can have two different CEOs. Let's say you acquired another company. Until and unless you complete all the configurations, moving all the data from the acquired organization to your organization, until then it will have a different structure of its own, a different hierarchy of its own. You will have another company, and for bigger organizations who have, like, if you talk about Facebook now, it's renamed as Meta and all those things, but Facebook also has its own company, or WhatsApp. It has many other products which are individual companies in its own, managed by the parent company, Meta or Facebook. They will have different hierarchies of different companies altogether, but definitely at some point, all of them have to report to somewhere. You don't have to, that would be the main company. Correct, correct. That's why these things come into the picture. Now I get it. It's a lot of visualization game, then configuration here. If you can visualize it correctly, you will get it correct. Thanks. Abhishek, I see your hand raised. You have a question. Dear Rohan, I have one scenario here because this is a situation at present. I faced one of our divisions in Russia that got closed. Now the company is the headquartered in USA, California, and this company has got divisions across the globe. India division, Australia division, Russia division. There are different divisions, but the main company is safe. Halliburton. That's the main company. Now this company, when the structure which we are seeing now, in this, like if Halliburton is sitting in between, on the top. It's sitting on the top. And the three is what we see. It's India, Russia, and Australia, for example. Now this India will have its own set of management. Here India head, HR Russia head, and HR Australia head. Now, if we go by the diagram of the supervisory organization, does that mean that for the four, when we decide the supervisory organization, it will be supervisory organization Russia, Australia, India, or the supervisory organization for all should be Halliburton on the top? No, it depends. Let's say this company too is the Russia and is no more. Correct. What happens to these? That should be the question. You cannot just close a company without moving its elements. You either have to transfer these here, or if the business decision is that, since these all employees are in there and we no longer need their services. You first of all pull out all the employees from these organizations. You either, put up a termination or something, whatever that is, and you inactivate these organizations. Let me go back to the original version. What you do is you first delete these. What I won't say delete, inactivate. Then you pull this one out or make it in. That will be taken care because you cannot just go in and click a delete button and remove organization. You have to move things around to balance it out. My other question to you, Rohan is the supervisory organization. Now it depends on the client requirement how they want it to be. They can decide based on a country, wise, or they can decide on the main headquarter where the main company is based. That way also. It depends like how they want it to be set. Yes, if they want all the people from reporting in this company to be moved to the headquarters, then these all will move there. They will now directly report to company XYZ and this will be inactivated. Now all these four small becomes the supervisory organization. These all are supervisory organizations anyway. No, I mean to say the company XYZ that is linked to the four circles, the smaller circles. Yes. Because usually why we all are asking this question, Rohan is in all our systems. There is a hierarchy like it flows from the top to bottom. Multiple divisions are happening at the last stage. That's why, like we were asking from you, that how the supervisory organization concept, when it comes to organization wise, is working. We can have like a supervisory organization linked to a company, one or two or three, or we can have a supervisory organization linked to straightaway company XYZ. If we do it for company XYZ, then that structure will be missing. If we're going for company 1, 2 and 3, you mean to say the structure will be there wherein the main organization will be company XYZ, then moves to company 1. Company 1 has got its own supervisory organization. Company 2 owns supervisory organization. Company 3 owns supervisory organization. Inheritance coming from company XYZ or the inheritance coming from the supervisory organization. Company 1 separate, company 2 separate, company 3 separate. In real world, only big organizations who have multiple subsidiaries or multiple products identified as the companies like Facebook, Google, Walmart, Amazon. These companies have these kinds of structures. In 70 to 75% of the companies, you won't find these company hierarchies. You'll only find one company at the top, and you don't even have to go on this side of Workday now, because you'll go about confusing yourself. You have to see. You guys created your own organization structures. Everything is there that you need to understand. If you have to create a new company and replicate the setup which you have done for the first company setup that you created. Don't confuse a company organization with a supervisory organization. That will not lead you anywhere. The company type is different. It's of type company and supervisory are of type supervisory. Everything revolves around supervisory. Company is just a reporting mechanism which we have which is kind of a Workday rule that you need to have someone at the top to report to. But every inheritance rolls in from your supervisory to your subordinates. That is what you have to focus on. Don't confuse different types of organizations together. Though all of them are linked through organization assignments, But those organization assignments are applicable on supervisory office, not company. Companies are your organization assignments. Makes sense. They're very obvious. Rohan, I have a simple question. Now you said that. Now Abhishek said that the company too is going to close up. The two smaller circles become the supervisory organization. But how come the compensation and benefits work in that way? Will it change as per the means the smaller subparts? Since they're moving to the supervisory organization, their compensation and benefits also changes as per that. A good question. But first let me correct once you said that once you move them here, they become supervisory organizations. Let me correct that statement. These all are supervisory organizations since the beginning. They are just becoming part of a different company. That's all. These all circles are supervisory organizations already. Coming to the second question, which is that what will happen to the business processes that we have in the back end of the compensation that will need to be changed? Nothing will be inherited by default. Once you move employees from these organizations or the organization as a whole to this company level, you will have to first make sure that there are no business processes that are designed specific to this company. If they are designed specific to this company, you will have to make those changes here as well. If not mostly business processes are tenant wide, you won't have to make any different change. All, but if you have a different compensation structure for employees in these organizations, you will have to implement that as well again. But in most cases, you won't even have to do this because, again, the compensation structures are applicable to everyone in the tenant. You don't make compensation structure specific to an organization. Yes, obviously, if it's, let's say, the type of business that was handling in company, two is only for sales and marketing. Then, yes, you might. In most cases, you won't have to build them again, but you have to test it again for sure. That is primary because you're moving like complete organizations. It's a big reorganization event that is happening. You have to be sure that there's no downstream impact of moving these organizations to a different structure altogether. You may have to test all the scenarios once to make sure nothing is breaking and everything is working. You might not have to create everything again. Means you're saying that at the first, when we started the company call center, the reorganization, here the organization is already created. We need to only check the functional areas of the functional areas like the compensation, the staffing, the hires, and need to check that none of these breaks and they have the same pattern or action plans. The business processes would be the starting point. To do some test hires, to do some compensation changes, do some terminations in the part of testing to see that the business processes are working as expected. Then just do some more compensation to make sure that the compensation setup that was done for them is working as expected. These would be some of like the sanity check that you have to do before moving them to these organizations or once you move them to these organizations. You gave an example of Walmart. Google have the same pattern. Means a company XYZ is Walmart. And what do you mean by company 1, 2, 3 in Walmart implements their divisions or the location hierarchy or I see division would be a very broad term. Every organization use it differently. But what I mean by that, let's say Walmart has a child company. That could be one, or they have different companies set up like Walmart India, Walmart UK, Walmart Africa, for example. That could also be another way of doing it. It's up to the business how they want to keep it. You can say it as location hierarchy, or the location hierarchy would be a different set of organization. See, we are talking of company type company. Whether you create this company on the base of location or you create it based on the type of products that you have, like for Amazon. I know there's Amazon India. And then, like, even if you talk about Alibaba, like if Alibaba is an company XYZ, Alibaba has many other child companies as well. It's up to the business how they want it. I got the point. Because when I saw this picture, I was not able to understand, but now I got to understand this much better. Because when Meeti or Meera asked it, I was confused how one company can have many companies below that. Now I got it. Thank you for that. One last question, Rohan, please. Is there any Workday best practices or any document or anything like that wherein they tell that maximum these many supervisory organization you should create, or only one should be created in the system to make the whole system work properly? I mean, is there any? No guidelines like this because you can create endless. There's no limit to that, Abhishek. But like I said, and I've said it multiple times, that your solution, you have to always think like an architect. If you're sitting at a leadership role and you're not thinking at an architect level, if you're thinking like a 1 year software developer, or maybe you're fresh graduate out of university, you obviously are thinking might not be relevant because you never had the exposure of how the organizations work. But if you're sitting at a senior level and your solutions that you're proposing are not scalable, then you will have to continue to revisit your configurations again and again every 6 months, every year. Because specifically now, in the dynamics of industry that we are in, whether it's retail, supply chain, procurement, expenses, automotive, any industry you talk about, everything is changing rapidly. It is becoming really hard for the leadership to make decisions that are scalable enough. But you guys are at the advantage. Once you start working at an organization, you can propose solutions of an architect level just by visualizing. Trust me, if your visualization is strong in this, you can create solutions which they would also be impressed about that. This is also a way. Because definitely there are limitations everywhere in the system. But there is no such limitations which does not allow you to create a scalable solution. I'll give you one example of a scalable solution is the organizations, like you said that the company that you work for, Abhishek. It has divisions across the globe. Now let's say you initiate a project of setting up time of functionality across the globe. It will take you years because every location, every country has a different policy that they should have these many number of days as a regular time, of these many number of days as a commercial time, of these many number of paternity, these many number of maternity leave, on and forth. If you go in and configure everything policy by policy to every country, it will take you years. But what you can do is you can create one time off plan, enable it for all the countries until you have all the other requirements set aloud. What you do is, let's say you have a list of 10 countries. Your business wants them that all these 10 countries employees should be able to apply for time off. But you go back to them, you say that we don't have the policies, and the business has to provide with that. And the business comes up that we don't worry about the policies. Just give them the access to and able to apply for time off, irrespective of the days and the limits that they have. The only thing they needed. It should route to the manager for approval, and manager will be responsible for counting or be responsible that this is a day off that they should be taking off. What you do is you create a blanket plan which includes all the countries, which is enabled for all the countries. You go live with it. And within a month, you have 10 countries already using time off, and on and forth. Once you know, let's say they start with Australia. Australia shares. The business leaders in Australia share you the policies of time off plan, and then you start configuring that, which takes you about another 2 months. Every 2 months, you kick off another plan for a specific to that country, and then you remove the country from the generic plan. And the solution that you provided, like a blanket time off plan, it's scalable. It's scalable and also efficient, and also gives you speed that anytime a new country is added in your organization, you can just enable the blanket time off plan for them. And once you have the complete requirements, you can set up the complete requirements later in the stage. That would be a scalable solution. But if you go back to the business, and business is also happy that you know employees are entering information in Workday. At the end of the day, you have to. You are the Workday pioneers. You have to increase the usage of Workday, that every employee in the system should know what Workday is and they should be using it. You have to get them away from the manual processes. You have all the employees in those 10 countries applying time off in the system. This is a scalable solution. Business is happy. And as in time, you can continue to, configure different time off for different countries when the requirements are. Think like that, and you will be like, the work will be very good, exciting, and you will understand how powerful the system is, even with its own limitations. I hope that example helps in some of the other way. Thanks, Rohan. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@uptalk.com.